to look at today, what we're looking at today is a different special right triangle. And we call it a 30, 60, 90 degree right triangle. Degree right triangle. And this one too has some special properties, just like with the 45, 45, 90. Now, the way that we're going to get to this, and the way that we're going to think about this is, well, we do have a triangle, 30, 60, and 90, because this is what we're saying is special right triangle. Now, what we're going to do, and what I'm going to do to kind of get towards this theorem, is, well, I'm going to put another 30, 60, 90 right next to it. I'm going to put two next to each other. Connect them together. Well, if I connect two of these together, well, what do I have? Well, I have a 60 degree, 60 degree, and this top one is what? 60 degrees, yes? So since all three angles are 60 degrees, it's an equilateral triangle, yes? Now, what I'm going to call the side opposite 30 degrees is x. Well, if this is x and this is x, this whole side length is what? 2x, yes? So all of these side lengths would be 2x because they're congruent, yes? And that's going to work out every single time. So if we call the side opposite 30 degrees x, the hypotenuse is going to be 2x. It's going to be twice that length. Well, now we're just missing what? The side opposite 60 degrees, yes? Well, so using this here, we defined, well, 60, 30, 90. We said this was x, and using two triangles, we could kind of see that this side length would be 2x. And if I want to find the third side, well, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Well, a squared, we'll just call it x. We don't know the other side, but we know that the hypotenuse is 2x squared. Now, if we square these, well, x squared is still just, well, x squared. 2x squared, 2 squared, 2 times 2 would give me 4. And then we have x squared. And if we subtract x squared from both sides, let's scroll that a little bit. Well, these will cancel, leaving me with b squared equals, well, 4x squared minus x squared. 4 minus 1 is 3x squared. And last but not least, to get the value of b, the other side, the side that we were missing, we would square root both sides. Well, the square root of x squared is x. And we can't take the square root of 3. So the other side turns out to be x square root of 3. So for 30, 60, 90, we get this pattern, kind of like what we had before. Where for the 45, 45, 90, the two sides that are opposite the 45 degrees are the same. And the hypotenuse is whatever that length is times the square root of 2. Now here, for the 30, 60, 90, it's really all revolving around the short side, the side opposite 30 degrees. Because if I know the side opposite 30 degrees, this side length here, well, the hypotenuse, the side opposite 90 degrees, is twice that length. And the side opposite 60 degrees is whatever that length is times the square root of 3. So if I can get to the shortest side length, well, I can get the other two. Because if I have the shortest, I multiply it by 2 to get the hypotenuse, multiply it by the square root of 3 to get the side opposite 60 degrees. And if I'm given any of the other two, if I'm given the hypotenuse, well, I would go back to the shortest side and then go to the side opposite 60 degrees. And say if we're given the side opposite 60 degrees, well, I would go to the shortest side, go back to the shortest side, and then go to 90. So really, all we're going to do, and lots of what we're going to do today, is really, if we're not given the shortest side, we find it, then find everything else. Because if you notice, everything really revolves around the shortest side. Multiply by 2 to get the hypotenuse, multiply by the square root of 3 to get the side opposite 60. Now, if we look at this here, what side length are we given? The side opposite 30, the side opposite 60, or the side opposite 90? The shortest side, the side opposite 30. Well, the side opposite 30, if I want to go from here to the hypotenuse, what do we do? The hypotenuse is twice the side opposite 30 degrees. Well, 2 times 3 is. So the hypotenuse for this triangle is 6. We're going from the side opposite 30 to the hypotenuse, the side opposite 90 degrees. We double it, the shortest side. The hypotenuse is twice the side opposite 30 degrees. Any questions on this here? Now, if I want to get the side opposite 60 degrees, well, what do? We take the shortest side and multiply it by the square root of 3, which will give us what? 3 square root of 3. And that's it. So whenever we're given the shortest side, the side opposite 30 degrees, to get the hypotenuse, we multiply it by 2. To get the side opposite 60 degrees, we multiply it by the square root of 3. Questions on this here? We're ready for the next one. All right, looking at this one here, are we given the side opposite 30, 60, or 90? So we're given the side opposite of 30. Well, if I want to get the hypotenuse, the side opposite 90, what are we going to do? Because again, the side opposite 30, if we take that to get the hypotenuse, well, from there, the hypotenuse is twice the side length opposite of 30 degrees. So we multiply it by 2. Well, 13 times 2 is 26. So we still need to find the side opposite 60. What do we do for it? We multiply by the square root of 3. Which will tell us x is equal to 13 times the square root of 3. Questions on this here? Okay. So looking at this one here, did they give us the side opposite 30, the side opposite 60, or the side opposite 90? I still have the side opposite 30, yes? So if I want to find the hypotenuse, what do? Because the hypotenuse is what? Because if we have x, the shortest side, the side opposite 30, well, from here to get the hypotenuse, well, we're taking that side length and multiplying it by 2. So we're to multiply the shortest side, the side opposite 30, by what? 2. And the shortest side length is the square root of 3. So what is 2 times the square root of 3? 2 square root of 3. Because if we're going from shortest side length to the hypotenuse, well, it's just taking that side length, whatever it is, and multiplying it by 2. Well, if I'm going from shortest side length to the side opposite 60 degrees, what do we do? We take the shortest side length and multiply it by what? We multiply it by the square root of 3. And the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 works out to be just 3. Questions on this here? Any questions on any of this here so far? Let's look at this one here. Find the value of x and y and write your answer in simplest form. Well, they gave us the side opposite 30 degrees. So we need to find the hypotenuse and the side opposite 60. So which one do we want to do first? The side opposite the right angle, the hypotenuse. So how do I find the hypotenuse? Well, we take the smallest side and do what to it? We multiply it by 2. Now you can do this in a calculator. 10 squared to 2 times 2. And there's one of our answers, because if we're given the side opposite 30 degrees, we multiply it by 2 to get to the hypotenuse. And we multiply it by what to get to the side opposite 60 degrees? So we're multiplying by what? Square root of... So to get the side opposite 60 degrees, we take whatever the shortest side length is and multiply it by the square root of 3. And when we do that, we'll get our answer. Any questions on any of this here? Any questions on anything we've done so far? Are we good with this here? So what side are we given? Side opposite 30, the side opposite 60, or the side opposite 90? So the side opposite 30. So we need to find the hypotenuse, which was given as y, and the side opposite 60, which is x. Which one of those do we want to find first? Okay, so the side opposite 90. Well, how do I find that? Right, because the shortest side length, to find the hypotenuse, well, we multiply it by 2, because the shortest side length, the hypotenuse is equal to twice the shortest side length. It's doubled. So we're going to multiply it by 2. Well, 2 times 5 is 10. And we have square root of 2. So to get the hypotenuse, we double the shortest side length, the side length opposite 30. Now to get the side opposite 60, side opposite 60 degrees, well, we take the what? The shortest side length, which is 5 squared root of 2, and do what? We're going to multiply it by the square root of 3, because the shortest side length, if we multiply it by 2, we get to the hypotenuse. If we take the shortest side length and multiply it by the square root of 3, we get the side opposite 60. And that will tell us x is equal to what? 5 square root of 6. Any questions on this here? Any questions on anything we've done so far? We ready for the next one? Yes? Okay, so since they gave us the side opposite 30 degrees, we can multiply it by 2 to get to the hypotenuse, and multiply it by the square root of 3 to get the side opposite 60, yes? Right, they didn't give us the side opposite 30 degrees this time, did they? What did they give us? The hypotenuse, yes? Now, normally we go from y, the shortest side, the side opposite 30, to the hypotenuse by multiplying it by what? 2. Now, you already said what we're going to do, because if I want to go the other direction, if I want to go from the hypotenuse back to the shortest side, we don't multiply by 2, we do what? We divide by 2. Because to find the shortest side length, we're going to take 30 and divide it by 2, which will tell us the shortest side length is what? Questions on this here? Okay. Now to find the side opposite 60, would it be easier to use the hypotenuse or the side opposite 30? The side opposite 30, yes. Because, well, do we have any way that's really connecting the hypotenuse and the side opposite 60 directly? Well, no. We're going to go back to the shortest side. Because the shortest side length and the side opposite 60 are connected. The side opposite 60 degrees is equal to the shortest side length times the square root of 3, yes? What is the shortest side length? 15, and we're going to multiply it by the square root of 3. And 15 times the square root of 3 is what, just 15 square root of 3. Any questions on any of this here? Any questions on anything we've done so far? Load those as fractions. Okay, so we're looking at this one here next. Now again, this one here, they didn't give us the side opposite 30 degrees, but they did give us the hypotenuse. And so what can we do first? I'm going to find the shortest side, because really if I know the shortest side, the other side is just whatever that length is times the square root of 3, yes? So it's easier if we get back to the shortest side length. Well, they gave us the hypotenuse. So how can I go from the hypotenuse to the side opposite 30 degrees? We're going to divide it by 2, because the hypotenuse is twice the shortest side. The shortest side is half of the hypotenuse. So we can take the hypotenuse and divide it by 2. Well, 12 divided by 2 is what? 12 divided by 2 is 6. So that gives us the shortest side length of 6. So we've gone from here to here. Well, we need to go from, well, the side opposite 60 degrees is equal to the shortest side length times what? Square root of, so we multiply it by the square root of 3. When I multiply 6 by the square root of 3, I get what? Well, 6 square root of 3. And that's it. Questions on this here? Questions on any of this here so far? You good with this here? Yes? Okay. Wrong way. All right, this one here, again, they gave us the hypotenuse, yes? So if I want to find the shortest side, we do what? Okay. 31 divided by 2 is? Thirty-one divided by 2. It is 15.5, but we don't put decimals and radicals next to each other. Because if we're going to have, most likely we're going to have a radical because the square root of 3 is a part of these triangles, yes? Because we have it in all of them. We want to leave it as a fraction. We want to leave this as a fraction. Because of some of the mathematical rules, especially in number theory, we don't put radicals and decimals next to each other. It's just not commonplace. So since I know that, well, to get the side opposite 60, I'm going to take the shortest side length and multiply it by the square root of 3, I'm going to leave it as a fraction because it's going to be easier to work with. Now, if we multiply 31 over 2 by the square root of 3, we get what? 31 square root of 3 over 2. The square root goes on top. It's always going to go on top. Any questions on anything that we've covered so far? Any questions on any of this here? Okay. All right, let's look at this one here. For this one here, the hypotenuse is 12 square root of 5. Well, again, since we're given the hypotenuse, where are we going first? The side opposite 30 degrees, yes. You're always going to want to go to the side opposite 30 degrees. And the side opposite 30 degrees for this here is y. So to get the shortest side, we're going to take 12 square root of 5 and do what? Divided by 2. And what is 12 square root of 5 divided by 2? 6 square root of 5, yes. Okay, now that we found the shortest side, what next? So to get the side opposite 60 degrees, we take the shortest side length and multiply it by the square root of 3. And you can do this in a calculator. 6 square root of 5 times the square root of 3. And if we do this, we get 6 square root of what? 15. Side opposite 30 and side opposite 60. Questions on any of this here? Are you guys starting to see kind of how this pattern works? Yes? Because if we're given the shortest side length to get the hypotenuse, we multiply it by 2. To get the side opposite 60 degrees, we multiply it by the square root of 3. If we're given the hypotenuse, well, we first go to the shortest side by dividing by 2, and then multiply the shortest side by the square root of 3 to get to the side opposite 60, yes? All right, so again, they gave us the hypotenuse, yes? 31 square root of 5. So what would I do to get from that to the shortest side length? Divide by 2. What is 31 square root of 5 divided by 2? Because 31 is not even. It can't even. So it's not divisible by 2. So that is the shortest side length. Then, well, to find the side opposite 60, what do? We take this and do what? Mm-hmm. And times it by the square root of 3. If we multiply this by the square root of 3, we get 31 square root of. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Questions on this here? Any questions on any of this here? Okay, so since they gave us the side opposite 90 degrees, they gave us the hypotenuse, the first thing we're going to do is divide it by 2, yes? Did they not give us the side opposite 90 degrees? They gave us the side opposite 60 degrees, yes? Well, okay. Now, when we first started this off, we were given the side opposite 30 degrees, yes? To get the side opposite 90, the hypotenuse, we multiplied it by 2. To get the side opposite 60 degrees, we multiplied it by the square root of 3, yes? Now, when we were given the hypotenuse, well, we figured out that to get back to the shortest side length, we divided it by 2, yes? And once we got the shortest side length, we multiplied it by the square root of 3 to get the side opposite 60. Well, now that I've given the side opposite 60 degrees, what are we going to do? By? Because we divided by 2 to get back here, and then we did the normal root. So going this direction, exactly, we're going to divide by the square root of 3. To go from the shortest side to 60, we multiplied by the square root of 3. So to go back to the shortest side, we divide. We do the opposite. So to get the shortest side length, well, I'm going to take the side opposite 60 degrees, 18 square root of 3, and divide it by what? The square root of 3. It's just going to give us 18. When she gets back. Yes. Okay. So now what are we missing? The y, the hypotenuse, yes? So how do I go from shortest side to the hypotenuse? I multiply the shortest side by 2. Any questions on this here? So really the 30, 60, 90, this is all revolving around what? The shortest side length, isn't it? Because if I have the shortest side length, I can go either direction. If I'm given the side opposite 60 or the side opposite 90, well, if I can get back to the shortest side, I can get the other one. We're either going from 30 to the other two sides, or going from one of the other two sides to 30, and then getting the other one. So again, they gave us the side opposite 60 degrees. So the best way, or what I think is the best way, is to find the shortest side length, the side length opposite 30 degrees. And what do? We take the side opposite 60 degrees and do what to it? Divide it by the square root of 3. So what is 32 square root of 3 divided by the square root of 3? 32, because anything divided by itself is 1. And what do we do next? To get the hypotenuse, we take the shortest side length, which is 32, and multiply it by 2. And 32 times 2 would give us 64. And that's it. Questions on this here? Any questions on any of this here so far? Are we good with this here so far? Yes? Okay. I'm going to skip one. I want to go to this one here. So instead of being on the top of the page, we're on the bottom of that page. Yep. So they gave us the side length opposite 60 degrees. Well, it doesn't have a square root of 3, so is that going to mess anything up? Well, no, we're still going to do the same thing, right? Because to get the shortest side, I take the side length opposite 60 degrees, which is 14, and do what? Divide it by the square root of 3. And we can type this into the calculator. We can hit the fraction key and do 14 over the square root of 3. And if we do this, it tells us that x is equal to 14 square root of 3 over 3. But we still need to find what? Why? The hypotenuse, yes? So to find the hypotenuse, we would times 14 square root of 3 over 3 by 2. We're going to multiply it by 2 to get the hypotenuse, because again, the hypotenuse is twice the shortest side length for 30, 60, 90 right triangles. This would give us 28 square root of 3 over 3. And again, if you're hopefully starting to notice, this is all revolving around the shortest side length, because once I get it, I can go in either direction. So are there any questions on any of this here? Let's look at this one here. Now they gave us the side opposite 30 or 60 degrees. So what we'll need to do is what? Divide 30 by the square root of 3. Because if I divide 30 by the square root of 3, I will get the side opposite 30 degrees. Because the side opposite 60 degrees is equal to the shortest side times square root of 3. So to go backwards, we would divide by the square root of 3. And we're going to get what over what? And what's on bottom? Nothing. Okay. Oh, is 30 divisible by 3? Oh, yeah. The reason we didn't have a fraction last time is what? Well, is 14 divisible by 3? No. So we have 14 over 3. Here, we could have had 30 over 3, but 30 divided by 3 is what? 10. So it does simplify. And to find the hypotenuse, well, we're going to take 10 square root of 3 and do what? Times it by 2. We're going to multiply it by 2. And you get 20. Questions on any of this here? We're starting to see the pattern, how this works, yes? And that's what, again, like I said the other day and the day before, these here, what we're going over these here, are easy and hard at the same time. Because if we get this pattern and we see how this works, they're not that bad. But if you're not understanding these, can be very difficult. So again, are there any questions on this here? Because I think we have this last one here. So let's go on and do this one here. So if I'm given the side opposite 30 degrees, and since I'm given the side opposite 30 degrees, not 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 30 degrees is where I'm wanting to go, we take the side opposite 60 degrees and do what? Divide it by square root of 3, yes? Does it really matter what the side opposite 60 is? Well, no, we just take whatever that length is and divide it by the square root of 3 to get the shortest side. Now, 9 divided by the square root of 3 is 3 square root of 3. We're given the shortest side length. Well, to get the hypotenuse, we're going to multiply it by 2. which gives us that's it. That's it. Questions on any of this here? We feel comfortable with this here? We can take a quiz on it tomorrow, right? That's all we're going to do.